Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
What is good, and welcome to Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. This is the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal, covering all the week's news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Galaxy, Angel City, Orange County Soccer Club, and of course, the Major Arena Soccer League's own Empire Strykers. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, J.R. Liebert, affectionately known as The Scarf, joined today by two fantastic co-hosts. The first, Orange County Soccer Club superfan and my man, Timmy K. Tim Kolotz. Tim, what do you say, my friend?
I'm feeling tremendous, my friend, and looking forward to a great show and also getting ready for tonight's Strikers game at Toyota Arena.
Absolutely. Things happening out in the Inland Empire, and also joining us, one half of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast co-hosting team, Rob Halone. Rob, welcome back to Soccer in 60.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure. It is beautiful to see you both.
Beautiful to have both of you guys on. We have Orange County Soccer Club head coach Danny Stone as our interview guest tonight. He talks all about Galaxy in the preseason because they just took them on. Talking about Pedro Guimaraes to Eintracht Frankfurt and stadium expansion. So make sure you stick around to that interview. It might be the NBA trade deadline, but deals are moving at a furious pace in Major League Soccer too. For LAFC, it works both ways, as a massive piece may be moving on, while a midfield maestro may be moving in. Galaxy part ways with some backline depth. Angel City renews its commitment to GPLA on Girls and Women in Sports Day. And Orange County Soccer Club continues to prove that its pathway to Europe works wonders. And of course, in the Inland Empire, the Strikers need to find their winning ways again after their 3-match winning streak was snapped with 2 tough road losses. It is silly season in Major League Soccer right now. Rob, Timmy, we got Cristiano Ronaldo rumors again coming to MLS. We got players coming in. We got players coming out. But luckily, we have lots and lots to talk about here on Soccer in 60. And with that, let's get right into Galaxy news. We're lucky enough here to have Rob of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast, and of course you, Timmy. Before we get in to our Galaxy news, though, almost forgot about our good friends over at Omnitrans. That's right. In partnership with the Empire Strykers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strykers. Don't miss out on the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strykers game. All right, Rob, the preseason has started, and it started with a bang for the Galaxy. I think you've got to be pretty pleased. They've had 3 matches in the preseason so far, and it's all looking very, very good for the Galaxy early on.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, people will say, hey, it's only preseason. I mean, but you start one by one. I mean, it's you got to win what's ahead of you, and you got to put down that solid foundation. I mean, 3 games, 3 wins, only 1 goal conceded. If you compare that to last season in preseason, I mean, they didn't pick up a dub until one of the last dates of the season, and gave up plenty of goals, and then we saw how 2025 ended up. So, I mean, this is a good foundation for what they have going, and hopefully we see a lot more of that at CVI.
Yeah, a win yesterday, February 4th, against Orange County Soccer Club in what we believe was a 2-0 win, I think, Rob.
Correct.
It was closed door at Dignity Health Sports Park. Lucas Sanabria scoring now in back-to-back matches. Joseph Painsel looking good. More on Joseph Painsel in just a little bit. But one of the things that I know stood out for you, Rob, is the play of Galaxy's under-22s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have these players that are designated as U22s and have a pretty big financial outlay for the Galaxy. And in the last match, you had Sanabria, Aude, and who's the other U22s? Drawing a blank on that one right now, but you had all three U22 players scoring in that one, and then you have Lucas Sanabria scoring in 2 games in a row. He scored yesterday as well, and that's exactly what you want to see. I mean, the Galaxy spent around 5 to 6 million to bring him to the Galaxy, and he's a player that they have a lot riding on. So to see him score in 2 matches, just heartens the heart that he's going to make that next step this year.
Yeah, and I think this last match as well, you saw Joao Klaus and Eric Tommy into the fold, I believe. Is that right? Am I correct, or did I read the scoreline wrong?
No, Eric Tommy's in. He arrived last week. He actually arrived the day before the Galaxy's season ticket member event, where they revealed their jersey to everybody. Throwback to the 2018-2019 jersey, just in case you fashionistas wanted to know. But he was there on stage with all his teammates answering questions, and he's been in training. So the Galaxy are as close to a full squad as I think they have ever been in the time that I've been covering them going into the CVI. I mean, there's, a school of thought that thinks that maybe they have enough room to bring one more person in which case, that they're not complete. But if that's not true, then yeah, I mean, this is the Galaxy that you're going to see for 2026.
Yeah, and Timmy K, one of the things that we have to deal with now, whether it's Tom Bogert or somebody else out there, is that it's silly season with the rumors. Luckily, Tom is there to debunk a lot of those things. But Tim, one of those players that you and I have gotten to watch now for the last several seasons has been Joseph Paintsil, the incredibly electric Ghanaian winger there. And look, these are some very, and I want to repeat, very unsubstantiated and oftentimes debunked rumors circling about Joseph Paintsil. But one of the clubs, Turkish club Trabzonspor, who that is where Joseph Paintsil has a former teammate. So maybe that's why there's a little bit of smoke with this out on Twitter. But it would be quite interesting if the Galaxy do decide to move Joseph Paintsil to a team like Trabzonspor, a Turkish club. Your thoughts, Timmy K, on a piece like that, at least being bantered about this close to the start of the regular season?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to get eyeballs, right? Just like, we talk about what we're doing. We need eyeballs. We need earballs on our show. I think it's just a lot of, as Tom Bogert said, nonsense. But, there's more than one outlet was reporting it. So there's a little bit of smoke. It may not be, a bonfire yet. But I think a lot of what it's doing is just trying to get him in the conversation. They're talking about that. But I think it would be a travesty if LA Galaxy, regardless the amount of money that they got paid for him, to let him go to anywhere.
Yeah, Rob, since coming over from Belgian side Genk, 30 goals, 11 primary assists in 71 matches. And I think what everybody knows, Rob, what we've seen time and time again is his speed is a true X factor, not just for the Galaxy, but in the league. I mean, I think he might be top 5 fastest player in the league. I know there's a little bit of knock on how deft his touch is from time to time, but he is a player who can take the top off of the defense rather quickly and put the ball in the back of the net.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he demonstrated it last year, even when the Galaxy weren't having a great year. I mean, he was the Golden Boot winner for the Galaxy. And he didn't drop off in goals. I mean, 2024, he scored 10 assists. Only where he dropped off was in assists, and that's understandable. He didn't have as much to work with. None of those players did. And you know what? I mean, it's good that he's in these conversations. It's good that, supposedly, French teams are sniffing about. Supposedly Turkish teams are sniffing about. I mean, I largely have heard from sources that's been debunked, so I don't expect that to happen. However, again, it's good that he's in the conversation. The numbers that I heard bandied about that the Galaxy would entertain are 15 to 20, perhaps. And considering they got him for around 10, I mean, double your money is not bad. I mean, if I were Will Kuntz, and I'm nowhere near that brilliant, if somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, here's 20 million, I would take a long, hard look at it if I had the chance to then go out and I had the time to bring someone else in.
I love it. Just a couple of minutes to go here on Galaxy. Zenka's cup of coffee running out with the Galaxy. The Galaxy and defender Matthias Jorgensen, better known as Zenka, have mutually agreed to terminate the 35-year-old's contract. After coming over from Anderlecht in January of 25, he appeared in 25 matches in all competitions, 2 assists in just under 2,000 minutes. And if this is it for the Danish defender, a great career as he spent time at Fenerbahce, Fortuna Dusseldorf, Eindhoven, Anderlecht, Copenhagen. This was a case of just being squeezed out, right, Rob, with Jakob Glesnes and is it Justin Haak and several other players who you guys have really retooled that back line. It was just a case of there not being any time left, right?
Yeah, that, and the fact that the bloke was on around 650 to 700K. I mean, just they reinvested that money. I mean, the writing was on the wall for Zanka. I mean, he once a G, always a G. Of course, you'll hear Galaxy fans say, but it never really worked out for him here, did it? I mean, he lost his place. I mean, he wasn't first choice. I mean, he made tremendous gaffes for a experienced defender, and we should have known that the writing was on the wall when Anderlecht fans were super happy that that he was leaving their team and come to the LA Galaxy. And good luck to him though.
Yeah, look, never a good sign when the opposing team is supporting the move. Let's head 13 miles up the road to BMO Stadium and LAFC. And you want to talk about some rumors. I don't think it gets bigger in Major League Soccer right now than Denis Bouanga to Fluminense. This is massive. And, oh, by the way, we talked about Tom Bogert debunking Joseph Paintsel rumors. Not the case for Denis Bouanga. Tom Bogert confirming that the two sides have been in talks. The reported number being thrown around, $15 million. Losing LAFC's all-time leading scorer would certainly leave a gaping hole alongside the all-world Son Heung-min, and couldn't possibly make first-year LAFC headman Marc Dos Santos his job any harder to start. The seat would certainly be warm under John Thorrington as well if a move like this were to happen. Now, let me ask the two of you, because this is the first thought I have. Is $15 million really enough to sell a 31-year-old in the middle of the prime of his career, Denis Bouanga?
I don't think so. I mean, if you're talking about selling Joseph for about 20, I mean, you got to at least entertain 20 for Denis. He is one of the faces of the league. And one of the, I think it was not last year, but the year before that. I mean, he was on the top of the goal charts, not just in the league, but internationally. I mean, so, I mean, you have a player that, like you said, is in his prime and should be in his prime for LAFC, running alongside Sonny, and other teams recognize his worth. And so they're sniffing about.
Yeah. Timmy, am I wrong, Timmy, to think that all I want as an LAFC supporter, because that's the hat that I wear, all I want is to see Denis and Son play for 34 games in a regular season and anything else that comes along with it, right?
Well, I think you not only want that, I think you want to win championships. And the only way that you're going to win championships if you sell Denis for 15 or 20 million bucks is who you're going to bring in at this late in the stage to fill that hole, right? You mentioned it. He's got a gaggle of goals. 14 in a row that is either Sonny or Denis put in the back of the net this past season. Who's going to fill that spot 4 weeks before the game, before the show starts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to go fish somebody out of the European leagues? No. The Turkish league ends this weekend, right? The 6th. So where are you going to go fish a guy out that's going to go put, 10, 15 goals in and get another 7 or 8 assists?
Listen, let's be very real. In the last 3 calendar years, the man has scored 98 goals, the most in Major League Soccer. And this doesn't happen very often in Major League Soccer, but he has become an internationally known star because of LAFC and Major League Soccer. Usually it's the other way around, right? We're shipping an Alphonso Davies or Miguel Almiron or Ricardo Pepi, although that hasn't really worked out, out of Major League Soccer, and you're getting all of the headlines for that. But 98 goals in the last 3 years. He did score 3 in 2022 when he was brought over. That is an all-time record. 101 goals in an LAFC shirt is number one.
Scarf, I have a question for you. Right?
Yes, sir.
Because we've both been at BMO. We both covered LAFC matches, and I've seen you talk to Denny several times. Yeah. And so it seems like you might know a little bit of his attitude, his behavior at this point. Just going back to last season, we heard him linked with Club America, right? And then earlier this year, we heard that Miami actually tabled a $13 million bid for him.
Yes.
And in the wake of that, he retweeted some questionable things that, I've been told through, my LAFC contacts that, is more attention seeking than anything. But now you have this offer from Fluminense, right? So what's going on? Is the player himself unsettled? Is the player himself just over the project? Or do you think it's just a recognition of his quality?
So two things can be true. Let's start with first, it's definitely a recognition of his quality, right? There are teams that are calling because of how good he is. I also think that he's listening to his agent a little bit, because as much as it is Son Heung-min getting all of the headlines for the salary that he makes, I believe second highest paid player in Major League Soccer. If you were to tell me that Denis Bouanga is the third highest paid player in Major League Soccer, it would not surprise me, and he has earned every bit of it. So,
but he's not.
He's not. You're absolutely right. So what I think is that he is kind of angling for a new contract. I firmly believe everything that I have heard is that he wants to stay in Los Angeles, but the man deserves his money. And if I could quote John Malkovich from the movie Rounders, pay the man his money.
Yeah.
He is a world-class talent playing in a league that doesn't get a lot of prime world-class talent. Yes, Lionel Messi is still a world-class talent. We saw what he did. He had 48 goal contributions in 30 some odd matches. He is still all world. He is the greatest player that has ever put on boots. But a player like Denis Bouanga, especially one full season alongside Sonny, the numbers that those two could produce and what that would do for Denis, both game and worth, if he wants to go explore something at the end of this next season. I think that if I were Denis' agent, I would be telling him, play alongside that Sonny guy for a full season. Yeah. He's going to do some special things for you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Score a boatload of goals, bring a title, and get a statue.
Yeah.
I mean,
look, the statue,
and then really get paid, right? Because it's still at just 32. He's still got 3, 4, 5 years of good legs left, right?
Yeah.
And he could easily pull in, I don't know if it's that $15 million, $17 million number, but maybe he is top 3, top 4 paid in MLS, right? And then he stays with Sonny for another couple of years.
Yeah. The other big name, by the way, Canadian men's national team star Stefan Eustáquio appears headed for BMO Stadium. A rumored deal bringing him from Porto to LAFC with a fee just north of $8 million appears to be in the works. LAFC has tweeted out some international mail coming online, and all reports seem to indicate that Eustáquio is going to be coming to black and gold. He would join an incredibly revamped midfield, fellow Canadian men's national teamer Matthew Chonier, U22 Amin Boudry, and others. So more on that once it gets confirmed. Want to say a big thank you to Rob Halone, once again, the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast co-host. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Rob.
And we're going to have Danny Stone on in just a little bit. But right now, we're going to bring on our show producer, Gunnar Burnt, to talk a little bit of Strykers with us, Timmy K. Gunnar, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, guys. This is I'm not used to this, so we'll see how this goes. But let's give it a go.
It just all depends on your internet connection there, Gunnar, as to whether or not we keep you around for the whole segment.
That's right. And let's not forget, Gunnar is the Strikers PR man. So if you need anything over at Empire Strykers, make sure you talk to Gunnar Burnt. He'll take care of you there. Unfortunately, Gunnar, not a great road trip as they hit the road for two, one in Independence, Missouri to take on the Kansas City Comets, and then in Towson, Maryland to take it on the Baltimore Blast. Gunnar, let's first talk a 6-3 loss on Friday, January 3rd at the Kansas City Comets to drop the Strikers to 5-7 on the season. They led 2-1 at the half, Gunnar, but second half troubles really came back to bite them.
Yeah, it was really quite remarkable, right? We thought after the first half that they were headed in a good direction, and especially after that, let's not forget that emphatic 10-6 home win over Kansas City, which came on the heels of a massive win over the San Diego Sockers. So it just felt like, oh, they're rolling. You know, the players felt it. Yeah. Everybody, the fans felt it. So it was obviously they were missing some players. There was some squad rotation going on, but they still looked good in the first half, put themselves in a winning position. So just a little disappointing, to be honest, to kind of see the air go out of the ball in the second half there.
Yeah, and Timmy, lots of good things to take away from the first half, right? They led 2-1 at the end of the half. Felipe Dutra opening his MASL scoring ledger with his first goal, Strikers' first goal of the match, coming off a shot from second-year sensation Munir Alami. And then Qudus Lawal chipping home a Justin Stinson pass to give the Road Boys a 2-1 lead. So lots of good things in the first half, though, right, Timmy?
Yeah, lots of good things. They were passing the ball well. They were shooting the ball. They were getting shots on frame. They were playing good indoor soccer. They were playing very well as a team. And when you see that, you think, okay, great. Let's go into the locker room. Hey, boys, let's fire this up. Let's put it in sixth gear. Let's get this thing rolling and really put the ball in the back of the net in the second half. And like Gunnar says, you know, the air kind of blew out of that size 5 soccer ball there now, did it?
Yeah, look, it absolutely did. The second half, a very different story as Kansas City outscored the Strikers 5-1 en route to the 6-3 win. Tony De La Torre did score against his former club from a dime from Steven Chavez, but unfortunately, Gunnar, a hat trick from Rian Marquez and a brace from Michael Lennis proving too much. What was the difference in the second half? A completely different Comets team, and unfortunately, Strikers still having a hard time getting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, honestly, I think pride comes into play, right? Kansas City is a team that isn't used to losing all that much. They're a title contender. I don't think they enjoyed getting beaten pretty comprehensively at Toyota Arena. And then being down after the first half, I wouldn't be surprised if they got a stern talking to at halftime. And it just seemed like they came out with a little bit of fire under them. And Empire, you know, there's travel involved. We know how that goes in MASL. It's not easy going on the road. And when a team adds an extra 2, 3, 4% and says, you know, we can't get beaten twice by these guys. Sometimes, you know, if you can't yourself add that extra 2, 3, 4%, then we see what can happen, you know, and I think it was just a case of that, honestly.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It was an emphatic victory at Toyota Arena. 7-0 was the lead they staked themselves out to before, I don't want to say holding on, but it was not as close as the 10-6 scoreline would have indicated. But unfortunately, no time for them to lick their wounds as just 2 days later, Sunday, February 1st, Towson, Maryland, Baltimore Blast. They got blasted 8-2, despite, oh, by the way, Timmy K, what we talk about all the time in the MASL is get shots on frame. Pepper the goalies as often as you can. And Timmy, 32 shots on target, outshot the Blast by 8 shots over the course of 4 quarters. You can't ask for much more in terms of shooting output.
No, you can't. And this is another game where they had the lead again. They were up 2-1 in this game as well. And then the goalkeeper just kind of, you know, he's like Mike Richter from the 90s. You know, he's got the little plexiglass behind him, it seems like. You know, the guy wasn't letting anything in. And the Strikers, to their to their credit, they're following a new Obasi system. They're following the tactics. They're firing the ball, and they're getting them on frame. They just are a little bit snake bit these last, especially against Baltimore. That should have been a much different scoreline, Scarf.
And listen, for all of our listeners that are Googling Mike Richter and those, I think, 94 New York Rangers right now, Jonathan Quick would be the name he meant to say for all of you Kings supporters and fans out there. He went old school with Mike Richter. I thought he was going to go Gump Worsley or Jacques Plante on us there for a second. But yeah, look, it was a tough one, right? Up 2-1 again, but the scoreline would seem to indicate then, Gunner, it was a touchdown plus the extra point, an avalanche of 7 straight goals by the Blast. Now, I do want to mention, Gunner, how exciting is it to watch Brian Orozco try and put one on frame, though? As we mentioned, he scored his second goal. He was the first goal scorer for the Empire Strykers. Second goal of the season to go along with 2 assists. What kind of fun is it to be able to watch an offensive juggernaut from the keeper position?
Well, as you guys know, I play goalkeeper. I could never in a million years do 5% of what Brian does. I'm not brave enough. I don't have the foot skills. He posted something on his Instagram today that's not even him scoring, but just touching the ball around opposing players. I mean, it's incredible. He's got phenomenal foot skills. And by the way, what is it? 0.4 points per game for a goalkeeper. That is complete insanity. I think he scores a goal he scores a point every 115 minutes. I don't know that we've had that in MASL in over a decade. I'm not sure. We'd have to go back and check, but it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. Want to give some flowers to Dayerson Gratterall as well, who, by the way, assisted on the Brian Orozco goal. That is his first professional point in indoor soccer. So congratulations to Gratterall on that. Like we mentioned, though, Chad Porch and Omar Silla really helped their cause for the Baltimore Blast, a brace and a dime for each of them. 13 matches in, the Strikers sit at 5-8 with 4 regulation wins, good for 14 points. 7th place in the standings, 3 points behind 6th place Baltimore. So you can see how the standings change there. They are leading MASL in fewest goals allowed per game, but they've also scored a league low number of goals per game on the offensive side. So 2 sides to that coin. KVCR and Fox tonight, local PBS station KVCR and Fox tonight, 6:35 against my dad's hometown, Utica City FC, coming to Toyota Arena, a 7 versus 8 matchup. You can listen to it on 1270 AM. And don't forget, game is 6:35. If you want to buy tickets, there's still time. 6:35, EmpireStrykers.com, and that's Strikers with a Y. If you want to buy tickets to this match, we've also got a 4-match homestand coming up in just a couple of weeks. Lots of good reasons to get out to Toyota Arena. Marco Fabian, Justin Stinson, Munir Alami, Brian Orozco, and all the rest of the guys in the Empire Strykers. So make sure you check that one out. Just want to say thank you to Gunner. The internet held up for you just fine, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it held up. We might try this again. Probably not a good idea, but we can think about it.
No, you did a great job, my man. Thanks so much for coming on. He's actually going to take himself off. That's kind of funny because he's helping to produce the show while he's doing it, right, Timmy?
I love the fact that he's all over the chat, he's all over the Strikers, and he's doing his job and coming on, hanging out with the Strikers. I love it.
Absolutely right. Don't forget, we have our interview with Danny Stone coming up in a little bit, but first, let's hear from our friends over at National Core. National Core is one of the nation's largest non-profit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. And to learn more about National Core and their mission, go to nationalcore.org. All right. And with that, we are going to turn it over to Orange County Soccer Club head coach Danny Stone, who sat with Gunner. He talks about a whole bunch of things, including their match against the Galaxy, stadium expansion, taking a player over to Eintracht Frankfurt. Timmy K, I believe you were on that interview as well. So let's hear Timmy, Gunner, and head coach Danny Stone.
Alrighty, thanks, guys. Our guest is the head coach of Orange County SC. Having attended high school in Arizona, he played professionally in his native England before returning stateside to help others excel at the game. He has previously worked for the Colorado Rapids in MLS, as well as Oklahoma City Energy and Phoenix Rising. And now he's heading into his second full season with OCSC and looking to defend his perfect track record of making the playoffs with this club. It's such an honor to have with us today Orange County SC head coach Danny Stone. Coach, welcome back to Soccer in 60.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. And we'll get right into it. A lot to discuss, right? You're in the middle of the preseason, and the timing for this conversation is actually quite ideal because you just today, and we're recording this on Wednesday, we should mention, you just today played the LA Galaxy in a scrimmage. We've only seen the final score, which was 2-0 Galaxy. A few photos which showed us that the big guns for the Galaxy were out there. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how the game went from your perspective and what you thought of your team's performance today?
Yeah, the game today was a great preseason game for us. That was our second preseason game so far. We're about 2.5 weeks into preseason training right now. So, we still have some time still to go, obviously, from a working point of view before we kick the season off in March. But today's game was a great test for us. I think the competition was good for both teams. I felt the game was actually a very good game. And of course, LA Galaxy have some excellent players, and yeah, we saw a lot of their bigger names out there on the field, and they're of course right now preparing for both MLS and Champions League games coming up early in their schedule. So I think for them it was important that that as many of their players as possible got good minutes today. And so yeah, look, we're at a point in preseason right now where we had one of our groups going through a 60-minute spell of the game today from a fitness push point of view. We have another game coming up here on Saturday and again next Wednesday. So we have plenty of game minutes ahead of us over the course of the next week. But yeah, the first game we played with LAFC was really 45-minute split between all of the players. Today, like I said, we were able to get a group to a 60-minute mark, which was good. So from a physical fitness and from the physical training point of view, it was a good good matchup for us today, and we were able to get some good minutes into the guys. But again, from the playing point of view, I was pleased with the team overall. From the questions that the Galaxy asked of us defensively, I thought we actually defended pretty well in the game. Created a couple of good opportunities in the game as well, where probably we're a little disappointed, even though it's preseason, not to have at least scored a goal in the game, and that's a good thing. But yeah, listen, we've had two very good MLS opponents so far in preseason. Another one coming here on Saturday with Real Salt Lake. So we've started with some tough competition and some very good games for us. So this early in preseason, you get tested in lots of ways, of course, physically as well as from a playing point of view. But this is great for us. It's not too often you have the opportunity to begin preseason with this caliber of opponent, and we're very pleased to be able to play these matches, and appreciative of the clubs that we're playing against to host us for a couple of these games so far. And then, like I say, we'll look forward to more game minutes coming through the rest of this week, which will get us to a good point. I think by the time we get to kind of a week from now, we'll have had a lot of players get through a lot of minutes, and that will only put us in a good place.
Yeah, Coach, you had mentioned it. You are in preseason waiting for USL Championship to get back underway. And when you get to play, like you mentioned, a couple of big-time MLS teams like this, you had mentioned it, you wanted to get a goal. What are your other goals for this type of scrimmage? Are you doing some tactical ideas? Is it just fitness? Or is kind of like you mentioned it, getting a little bit of pride out of this whole thing and trying to get a biscuit in the basket?
Yeah, it's a great question. The honest answer, it's all of those things. I think initially in preseason, we have to periodize and build things physically. Of course, that's normal to get players up to fitness levels that we need to begin the season. But, just as importantly, to develop and to work at some tactical structure and some, integrate some new players into the group. We have 3 or 4 new players who have joined the group to this point. We have a very, very good core of, I think, returning players as well. So we have some consistency from last year, both on the field and from a cultural point of view in the locker room. But I think, with 3 or 4 good additions, that always is important to get those players involved with the group. And, the answer to your question is, it's a combination of course, some fitness work, and we expect fatigue in these games, and we're training pretty hard around these games at the moment as well. So there's an element to the matches at the moment where we're perhaps not putting players completely fresh into these games, which is, of course, deliberately to kind of physically overload the players from an adaptation. But we want to get some good tactical work and a little bit experiment with some different systems and look at some players in those roles as well. And by the time we get to March 7th and we're kicking the season off, we should have, I think, got to a point where we've seen lots of different players in different roles and matching up together on the field. And obviously then from a coaching point of view, we make those choices as to, where we feel we are best and which players have worked well together. And preseason is just as much about some of that side of figuring things out, testing the waters a little bit. And like I say, seeing some of the combinations of players work together and, then being in a good place to make selections as we get closer to the start of the season.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that kind of leads me into the next question. What kind of changes or tweaks in terms of style of play are you kind of looking at for the coming year? Obviously, you're not going to give away your whole game plan because, the guys in Phoenix are listening to the show. So we don't want that. But maybe you can give us a couple of key areas you'd be working on at this point in the preparation for the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think from a tactical point of view, we want to be a little bit probably a development of where we finished last season from a little bit more of a tactical flexibility perspective where, I think I'd like the team to be comfortable and confident in really sort of more than one system and more than one way of playing from a formation point of view. So part of what we'll do here in preseason is probably look at a couple of different ways of playing from a formation setup. And then again, what then becomes very important in that is getting comfortable with the profiles and the players that we have at our disposal for selection within each of those systems. And, and I include players like, for example, Liam McKinnon, who unfortunately last year through injury missed much of the season, almost the whole season with unfortunate injuries. He's back in preseason training with the team here now. And we, of course, all hope that he stays healthy through not only preseason, but the course of the season as well ahead of us. And Liam is a player that just, unfortunately, we haven't actually had that much of an opportunity to work with really on the grass for too long. And so, I talk about new players coming in, but we also have, like I say, some returning players. Grayson Duty also, who is not quite back on the grass from a competition perspective yet, although he is back training with the team. And so, there's some integration for a couple of returning players as well. And that gives me a chance to see these players, alongside the other players that we have and in some different ways of playing. And that doesn't necessarily, I mean, look, I could talk to you for hours on this stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to work through 10 different formations, but just some slight adjustments within formations that actually fit each player profile potentially a little bit better. And, every player is going to give us something different, and that will be, of course, needed. Over an 8-9 month season, we're going to need everybody, and we're going to need different types of players, and different games are going to probably demand different selections and different profiles on the pitch. And this is just the first stages of working through both of those areas.
Fascinating. And Coach, you mentioned you've already talked about players. You talked about the core returning, which is actually something I wanted to ask you about. Key players are coming back. You have an Ethan Zubak, Kevin Partita, Stephen Kelly, Tom Brewitt, Chris Hagart, Nico Benalcazar. I could go on and on. Ryan Dogman. You obviously do lose your starting goalkeeper in Colin Shuttler. Cam Dunbar is another one. Bryce Jamieson is another one. You add a new goalkeeper in Alex Rando, and then a top prospect in Jameer Johnson. How do you feel about the current roster as, let's say, as compared to last season? And do you see urgent needs still at this point?
I feel good about the roster. Like I said, I think one thing that was important to us this year was that we did have a good core of returning players. So the names you've mentioned, plus obviously a few others as well. That will give us, I think, a very good foundation from which to build into the season. And I mean that on the field, and I've very deliberately mentioned also from a locker room perspective and a cultural perspective. I felt the group finishing the year last year were in a very good place as a team, and teammates, and a spirit amongst them where they were, working together well and pushing each other well, supporting each other well. And I think that then gives us a good foundation. Then when you speak on players who have come into the group, like an Alex Rando, he's come in and been very good with us so far. He's a great guy. He's been a great teammate so far, even in just the short 2 or 3 weeks that we've been working. And we're really obviously getting more familiar with him. But I feel he's performed very well so far. So of course, losing Colin Shuttler is it will make things a little different. But this is normal. Players move on to different places. That's not always a bad thing. Colin did very well for the club. But I have no doubt, especially seeing what I've seen from Alex in the early stages here, that we have a very capable and high-performing replacement goalkeeper to be with the group this year. And then, of course, we are a club who I think is very well recognised that we do bring in young players, and we do view this as an important part of how we operate, is giving young players opportunities when those are earned, and being part of a very, I think, clear and deliberate player development pathway to bring young players into the professional game. And Jameer, you've mentioned, is one player that's joined the club. Matteo Bunbury as well from Portland's second team has joined the organisation. And so there's a couple of younger players that come in. And yes, of course, you're right to mention that Bryce is a good example of one who's played a lot of games for Orange County and then has moved on to an MLS club in Colorado. And these are the pathways that we are very proud to be part of creating. And Jameer is a very young player still at this point, 17 years old, and will now take his first steps into learning what it is and what it means to become a full-time professional player. And I think it's important always that we remember, even when a player comes in with clear talent and ability behind him, like we feel Jameer has, this is still a very young player who has a lot to learn in terms of where he goes with his professional career, and we hope that's a very long and successful one. But some patience is required, I think, for people working with him. Patience is required for him with himself as a player as well, and just for fans and for people watching that journey for any young player, not just for Jameer. It's important that we understand that doesn't necessarily go in a straight line of towards success. There's ups and downs, and there's ebbs and flows to it, and there's a lot of learning that gets done throughout the course of that journey. Pedro Guimaraes is another player that's been with the club for a year and a half or so now, and played a lot of games, and of course has earned a well-deserved move over to Germany coming up. And again, these are things that we're very proud of. This is part of what we do as a club, and it's very important that these young players, like I say, learn to deserve the opportunities that they get. These are not opportunities that should just be handed to young players, but they have to earn it. And when they do, we are a club, I think, that provide those platforms for players to go and take those next steps. And again, we're very excited about the players that we've brought in, but a little patience along the way certainly is required. And it's not only a long season ahead, but we hope these young lads have long and successful playing careers ahead of them as well.
Now that you touch on the subject, I have to follow up. You mentioned all the players. Obviously, Orange County famously has transferred a number of players to Europe, to the French First Division, the German First Division, different countries all over Europe. Now another one you bring in, because of the track record, you're able to attract top talent like a Tyson Espy, a Jameer Johnson. If I gave you just 2 or 3 minutes, let's say, how would you, in a nutshell, explain why this club is so good at what it does in terms of that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that the philosophy behind what we do is clear. We are a club who will bring in young players of 15, 16, 17 years old, and then work with them. And from a coach's point of view, for myself and obviously for the entire staff, part of our role and responsibility is to understand that we are part of an organization that values this and works with these young players. And like I said, the patience that I've just talked about is important, whilst also pushing these players to improve. At 16, 17 years old, for talented young players, their journey and their progression and their development is we hope nowhere near complete. And so we offer opportunities to them from a playing opportunity, but we also want to do our best to help improve these players and to help them realize whatever potential level that they have. We want to help them get to that point and help them realize that potential. And so, it is quite a unique job from a coaching point of view. It's certainly, I think, within USL circles, a very unique direction and philosophy that the club take. And I think that that's well recognized, I think, from the outside. And I think I think the club is viewed as a club that does provide opportunities for talented young players who, again, then deserve those opportunities through the work that they put in. And at the same time, we are a competitive professional football team, and these are not sort of handout situations that occur here. These young players, of course, are provided opportunities. So we recognise that, but we also make sure that they work hard to earn those opportunities as well. And that's an important, I think, differentiation there, and part of their learning process that is important. The ability to learn how to become a professional player every day on the training ground and compete with your teammates before you're competing with outside opponents, and to push yourself to improve as an individual player. This is where they will eventually have successful careers ahead of them, not just because they have talent at 16 or 17 years old, but because they then learn how to become a real pro every day, and a staff of people that then work with them to teach them what that means. It's a very important thing, and it's not an easy journey sometimes for them. And then of course the final layer is a club that provides those opportunities so that so that those players have the platform to hopefully go on to the most successful levels of the game that they have the capability to achieve.
Yeah, I applaud you and the club for that, because, as you mentioned, not every club is like that. So, hey, Coach, one last final question for you before we get you out of here. Your team trains and plays at the Great Park in Irvine, and when we take people there, I'm there at the park all the time. I'm there at the Champ. They tend to be very impressed with the setup. You've experienced several environments, including as a coach here in the U.S. with Colorado Rapids, as we mentioned, Oklahoma City Energy, and Phoenix Rising, also in the USL Championship. How would you rate the OCSC environment and their facilities?
I honestly, it's one of my favorite environments in the league, and if you'd asked me this before I joined the club, I would have given you the same answer. I think Great Park and Championship Stadium as a venue for USL Championship soccer, I think it's a great setting. I think it's a lovely stadium for people to come and watch a game. I think the size of the stadium is a great sort of fit for a USL Championship team, and obviously this year as well we'll be expanding that by, I think, close to 1,500 seats as well in the stadium. I think one thing I felt we were very good with our home form last year, and we I think more often than not gave fans who came to support the team an exciting and fun and hopefully victorious evening, fairly often at the end of the night. And so I think that always helps with the experience. But look, I think it's a great place to work. I think it's a great place for our team to play, and I think it's I say this a lot. We're very appreciative always of course, all the fans and all the people who come to the stadium to watch us. And I will always say to them, we recognize you, we see you, we feel you, and the energy and the environment that they create is so important to the team, and it's reciprocated. If we can give them something to latch onto and to get behind and support, then the energy they give back to the team, it only builds from one side to the other. And so I really enjoyed playing there. I enjoyed coming in as a away team as well in years before I joined Orange County. And like I said, I can honestly say it's one of the best environments in the league to coach in, to play in. And when we have a full stadium of fans, it's a great place. So I can't wait to get back out there this season.
Awesome.
And
Love it.
we yeah, love it. And we can't wait to go see it again. And I'll say this as we say thank you and how much we appreciate your time. I gave a pair of tickets to someone this past season, and they saw they're not even soccer fans. They saw a scoreless draw there, and they had the time of their lives. So we can only imagine how much fun that is when you guys win 3-0, 4-2, 4-1. Everybody needs to go check it out. Check out Orange County Soccer Club. Thank you so much for your time and for the insight today. Really appreciate it. Danny Stone, coach of Orange County Soccer Club. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, there you go, Timmy. All kinds of stuff touched on by head man Danny Stone there, and he has been a great friend to the show several times. So a big thank you to head coach Danny Stone of Orange County Soccer Club. Let's talk a little Angel City, Timmy K. Another player on their way out, but this is actually a good move for her. 19-year-old striker Maita Lopez has been loaned by Angel City to Northern Super League club Vancouver Rise FC for the upcoming season, with the loan taking effect on February 1st and running through the end of the season. Last season for Angel City, she logged 6 starts and 7 total appearances for a total of 391 minutes. And more importantly, the move should allow her to get some real playing time leading into the U20 South American Championship, where she will represent her home country of Colombia. She was also called in, by the way, to the most recent Colombian senior women's national team camp, which is big news. And, Timmy, for a player like this, it's a brilliant move for Angel City because they're able to keep her in the fold while not having to struggle to find her minutes now that she's going to the Vancouver Rise.
Yeah, her going to the Rise is, I think, a brilliant move for both the club and for her. Like you mentioned, she'll get a ton of playing time up with the Rise. She'll play against very high competition. So this is going to be great for her career long term. And then what it also does for Angel City is, you mentioned it, it keeps her as part of the club. And when she comes back, she'll be much more seasoned because Coach Strauss probably just doesn't have the room for her at this time to really get her the development that she needs. And then for the U20, for the U20s coming up to go play for Colombia and then get a little taste of what the senior club is doing, I think it's brilliant for her, brilliant for Angel City, and it's great for her long-term in her career.
And Timmy, despite whoever was on the bench as head coach, what we've seen Angel City be able to do, whether it's the Thompson girls, whether it's Kennedy Fuller, now with Maita Lopez, developing teenagers, developing young talent. They have been excellent at this. Now, this won't happen at BMO Stadium. This won't happen at their practice facility. This will happen thanks to the Vancouver Rise. But again, the proof is in the pudding. And what we're starting to see, maybe it's something like what we have in Orange County Soccer Club, where they've proven their pathway to success in Europe. If Angel City can be the club at NWSL that proves they can develop this young talent and get them to the next step in their career, this could prove dividends far past Maita Lopez.
Yeah, because what it's going to do is it's going to drive not only some of these youngsters, you mentioned the Thompsons and everybody else like that, Claire Emsley, coming over young, things like that. You get some of these players that you wouldn't normally get. You have the top facility, I believe, in the entire NWSL with the new facility that they put in place last year. And then what you're going to do is these younger players know that if they're not going to get minutes at Angel City, they're going to be able to go out on loan to somebody like Vancouver and get these minutes and then come back. And now you're still only going to be 20, 21, 22 years old. You've still got another 10 years to play at the highest level and in the NWSL.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's take it even farther back in the terms of development, Angel City Football Club has extended its contract with the City of Los Angeles's Girls Play LA soccer program, impacting, and I'm quoting the video that they put out, over 45,000 girls and gender expansive youth leading up to the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. And very rarely do I get to speak firsthand about anything that Angel City is doing, but I can speak firsthand to this as an employee of the City of Los Angeles's Department of Recreation and Parks for the last 26 years. And for most of those years, I have run U9 soccer programs. And let me tell you, there was absolutely nothing like the impact that I saw on girls in soccer in the city of Los Angeles after the 99ers won the World Cup in 1999. And then again, a massive uptick after the 2015 women won the World Cup. My leagues were always co-ed, as I work at a very small facility in Los Angeles. So we always had co-ed girls playing with the boys. Our league went from just about under 20% in our league girls to, after they won in 2015, my league was 45% female. That's the awesome. Rise in interest and in seeing oneself on the pitch back then, 2015, caused that spike. Well, now, Tim, what we are seeing, true representation on the pitch, which we now have in Los Angeles at BMO Stadium with Angel City, is the real game changer. And Angel City Football Club's community impact will only continue to grow with the renewal of this partnership. Look, we're two guys, two middle-aged guys talking about soccer here on Soccer in 60, but what does this mean that all of these young women and all of this, the gender expansive youth that this program is really helping out, what does it mean that they can see themselves on the pitch and in the community?
I think it's great for the city of Los Angeles. I think it's great for women's sports in general, because now you have that, I don't want to call it a feeder system, but it is what it is. It's feeding it to the high schools. It's feeding it to the college level. And some of these young women are going to be able to skip the college route and go play professionally right away. You're seeing it inside of USL, right? They have the Women's League One. These type of community impacts when a child is 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. I coached women's, girls soccer when my daughter played. I'm out refereeing one day and my daughter's about 18, ready to go to college. We had a parent come up and tell me that because of my coaching, I was her very first coach. She's now going to play Division I. That type of impact is unbelievable, and it's really, really fun to see.
Listen, what was also really, really fun is another fantastic episode of Soccer in 60 brought to you by SRC Health System. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast platform, on all your podcast platforms, and on YouTube. And don't forget, PBS station KVCR, Fox Sports 1270 AM, Strykers versus Utica tonight, 6:35. It's Timmy K over there. It's Scarf over here. And this has been Soccer in 60.